Hello out there, board gamers. This is me, Undead Viking, coming to you with a video review. Alright, no more jokes, no more ha-ha-ha, no more antics. This is the actual review of Nothing Personal, a game by Tom Vasel and Steve Avery. This is a game that is currently in Kickstarter, so hopefully after I get done giving you my little spiel here, this will be something you'll decide whether or not you'll be interested in purchasing, and then you can go ahead and back up the Kickstarter game. I know it's funded already at this point, but there's lots of really cool goals if they reach certain levels of money or whatever, so it might be something you want to check out. And of course I'll list the link underneath the video as soon as I know what this, so you can go ahead and follow that. But regardless, this is a game, as I said, it's by Steve Avery and Tom Vasel, and unless you are totally new to the board game world, you will probably recognize the name of Tom Vasel as being the reviewer of board games extraordinaire, if you will. Tom Vasel has reviewed thousands of games, and he, along with Scott Nicholson, were the two people that inspired me to ever get into this whole reviewing process. So I was really pleased with the fact that Tom Vasel was kind enough to give me his prototype copy of this game for me to play around with my friends. And after I played the game at Gen Con, actually, but I was able to play this game with my friends, and I'm able to do this review now. As far as what the game is about, Nothing Personal is a game for 3 to 5 people. It is a game of cutthroat business within a crime family. If you've ever watched movies like The Godfather or watched Sopranos, there's always that scene at the FBI which shows the pyramid of people, starting with the Godfather on top, and then the different capos and lieutenants and so on and so forth, as the most important person is in control of 2 people, and those 2 people, and so on and so forth. Kind of like a pyramid scheme, if you've heard of those. And the game is about that. It's about different gangsters inhabiting those roles, and actually the board is that. And then you, as a player, are trying to exert your influence over those people so that, if you have influence over the Godfather, that's worth a lot of money and worth a lot of points to you, if you so forth. And each spot has its own special abilities and powers, and and so it is not only a game of like picking the right people to want to have influence over, but also picking the right people in the right spots as well. And Tom Vasel, when he was telling me about the game, he said that I designed this game not me, but I'm saying Tom as I'm talking to Tom. Tom saying I, not me, I. But anyway, Tom Vasel designed this game with the purpose of trying to design a game of something that he would like to play. And that's the whole point of this game. It's a game that he personally would enjoy playing if he went and purchased a game off the shelf. This would be the type of game he would want to play. And he realized that a lot about this game isn't going to appeal to some people. This game is very cutthroat, and it's very it's got a lot of negotiation going on, and it is definitely a game that you're going to have your feelings hurt if you allow your feelings to get hurt over a board game, because somebody is going to stab you in the back eventually, and you're going to be stabbing other people in the back as well. Now, if you've watched a lot of these reviews with me, you'll know that as soon as you start talking about negotiation games, as soon as you start talking about screw your neighbor games, as soon as you start talking about backstabbing games, you know that this game was going to be a hit with me, and I was really excited to play it. And I got to play it at Gen Con, as I said, and that was pretty awesome, and Tom taught me how to play the game, and then as this opportunity arrived, he offered this for me to do the review, and so I gladly accepted, and now I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how to play Nothing Personal. I'm going to hopefully detail that as well as I can, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about the game and why it works for me, and hopefully you will figure out if it'll work for you. But enough yakety yak. Let's go into the gameplay, shall we? Alright, here you see the board for Nothing Personal. I'm just going to kind of show you the board, and then I'm going to show you how each turn of the game goes. This is obviously the triangle of the gangsters that I referred to in my introduction. Starting from the capo here at number 9, underboss, counselor, or consigliere. I don't know why they can call it that. I just like saying consigliere more than counselor. But regardless, enforcer, racketeer, bean counter, first guy, second guy, third guy, and then the associates. These 3 people that aren't fully members of the mob yet, but as people are getting sent to prison or getting killed, these people will have the chance to move up and into the hierarchy of the mob. each one of the locations has a certain ability, except for technically the capo doesn't have an ability associated with the location, though the capo breaks ties and they're the first player, and so and also it's a very powerful position to be in because of the fact that it earns the most respect and money each turn, and respect of course is the points of the game. But I'm not going to go through every single one, but the underboss is able to draw an extra influence card when the powers their ability. You can add 3 neutral influence as the counselor to any of the different locations, any of the different mobsters. That's important because of the fact that if too much influence gets placed on a single one of these mobsters, they will be investigated by the police and arrested. So it's like a power that they have. And so each one of these locations has an ability. Even you can have like the third guy can pay $10 and attempt to assassinate or whack another person that's in this pyramid. And so, I mean, that's the ability that this person has. So obviously it's, different things that are powerful. You get a big giant deck of influence cards, which I'll go over very shortly. You get a deck of these gangsters. The gangsters obviously are more people that as people are arrested or killed off, you'll need more of these. Each gangster, I should mention, has these different tokens up here, that designate what type of gangster they are. They also have a respect rating and a money rating, and that's how much money and respect they earn if they're on the board and you control them for the controlling character. They also may have a special ability like this one has. You may re-roll any dice roll once per round. So like if you have control over this particular gangster, that you have that ability. And you get a ton of these guys, and I don't know if they will have the same names when it comes up, like Tom Vasilino. Yeah, obviously. But I don't know if they'll have the same names, obviously, when the real game comes out. Well, actually, they've posted some cards already for when the end game production will have. So some of those names will be the same. But there's a lot of in-jokes and stuff like that are kind of funny. But anyway, that's that. You get a die. The die is unique due to the fact that the 1 is replaced with the switchblade. The reason why the switchblade is there, that's if you roll a 1... if you're trying to, say, take over somebody else's spot, or if you're trying to kill somebody, if you roll the 1, you actually are the one that ends up getting killed instead of the person that you're targeting. And then, I don't think the end game will have actual poker chips for the money, but I can guarantee you that I will be using poker chips with my end result because poker chips just feel nicer in your hands instead of like paper money or cardboard tokens. Obviously, either work just fine. But to play the game, you start off. There is a separate turns, and there's a nice little track here on the board that'll tell you exactly how it happens. And there are 5 turns to the game. And the very first turn in the game, you will play influence cards. Now, I mentioned the influence cards to you earlier. The influence cards will have a symbol on them like so, and also a number. Meaning that if you played this influence card, you could place 2 of your influence on anybody that had the brass knuckles. So you can see right away, the capo has all 4, so they have the brass knuckles on there. And the only other person on there is the counselor, which is this guy, Stefano Averso, who has that as well. And so, if you chose to play that, and you were green, you would play that card and take 2 of your little tokens here, and you would say add them to the counselor, Stefano Averso. Now, if you wanted to, you'll notice that there is an or on this one. You can say or take $7 and force all other players to lose $2 each. So if you wanted to just forego getting this bonus, you could use this card for that purpose. Other cards will have an and on them. Like here's one, put 3 influence if anybody has a pistol, and it says, and you must allow one other player to place 2 influence on any gangster. So this is one of those things where you do it, but then you get to choose somebody else that's sitting at the table to get that ability. Now that's where the negotiation part comes in, and negotiation part's going to come in a lot in this game. You can basically turn to the rest of the table and say, who's going to give me the most money for doing this, or who's going to give me a favor later for doing this, or who's going to give me influence on, or an influence card for doing this. And so you can wheel and deal amongst the table. And this is a game where table talk is a must. So if this is a game if you don't like games with lots of table talk and lots of cursing, and I shouldn't say cursing per se, but a lot of oaths of vengeance to go off, then this is a situation where maybe this isn't the game for you. Also, some cards will just have this symbol up here, but also this second guy, meaning that you can place 2 on the second guy, regardless of what this guy has for this symbol over here. And so these influence cards have a lot of different abilities, a lot of different influence numbers, and so on and so forth that you will use. And what happens during the influence round is that each person gets to play a card and it goes around the table. After that first turn, you have what's called an ante. The person that acts first can place one, but they can also put money on the table and say, I'm going to pay $4 and I'm going to play another influence card. Now what that does is that forces everybody else to pay at least $4 to play another card. So, and then if somebody does play another card, they can actually up the ante and say, I'm going to play it, but I'm going to pay $8, meaning that everybody after them has to pay $8. And somebody else will say, I'm going to play one, but it's going to cost $10. And that's a way that you can exert your influence over the rest of the group, especially if you have a lot of money, and you can prevent them from playing more influence on the different mobsters. A very, very neat aspect to the game. And also, once again, the negotiation situation goes. If you do, you can say, I won't attack you this turn if you promise me you won't up the ante, and things like that. And once again, the open table talk and that extra dynamic of the game is taking hold. It is important to note that you can always turn in an influence card for $8. So if you have a situation with an ante and you don't have the money, you can always burn one of your influence cards and get $8 back from the bank, and that might allow you to play another one of your influence cards in your hand. It also should be noted that if you have an influence card that doesn't match any of the gangsters that are out here, but you still want to place an influence, you can discard one of your influence cards to put one influence down on anybody. And regardless of where they are, regardless of what type of gangster they are, and regardless of what the card that you just discarded gives you. So that's, so even if you got bad cards, you can still do something. Eventually, people are going to start passing. Once you pass, you're unable to do anything anymore. You have to wait for everybody else to pass as well. And that's when you're going to move into the second part of the game. And that's when you go to the crew and you start resolving the gangsters. The first thing you do when you resolve the gangsters is that you start with the capo, and whoever has the most influence markers on this gangster earns the money and the respect that particular spot gives you. If you tie for that, then nothing happens. Nobody gets anything. You tie, and nobody gets to be the capo or have control over the capo. And then you go slowly down, one by one, to each of the other locations. You apply, and if you notice that there is like a +4/+4, and +3/+3, there's like a ×2 here, so you'd multiply that figure, +3, and so you would add these changes to each one of these locations. So you might have a situation where, this one, the capo is +4 and +4, but if you had a different gangster in this location, instead of having one with 0, and you had one with 3, the ×2 would actually make it, worth nearly as much as the capo in that situation. So it's always important that you look at the multipliers and the adjustments that are along the side. This guy, the first guy, has like +1/+1, and some of the different people will actually have negative figures on the gangsters, which might actually, in fact, lower your respect, or you have to pay money, in fact, to actually be able to have that particular gangster and be in control of that gangster. But because of their powers and abilities, it's actually worthwhile for you to be in control of that particular location. I should say this: it is important to note that in the the description they gave you, if somebody was tying for the capo, that it doesn't, because of the very beginning of the game, you do hand out the capo card to somebody. Technically, it should be given out randomly, obviously, but it is supposed to be given out to the person who looks most like a gangster. If somebody ties to the capo, and whoever still has the card, regardless of whether or not they're in the running for the influence on that, retains the capo. That's important to note, because whoever has the card for the capo, if there's any other ties on any of the other gangsters, they actually get to decide which one of those two people gets to control that card. And once again, that's when the negotiation starts in, and the promises and the money and so on and so forth. Now, once you get all the way down and you determine who got the points and who got the money, you start with the third guy, and you work your way back up the chain, back up to the capo. And this is where the special abilities of each of these locations and the special abilities of the gangsters in these locations come into play. So you will start with the person that is in control of the third guy, and like it says, you can pay $10 and you can try to whack a gangster. Now this person has that option. They can say, well, are you going to take that action, or are you going to try to kill somebody? And once again, the negotiation starts. Well, I don't know. Who should I kill? And somebody will say, well, you should really kill this guy or kill that guy. And then you can say, well, why don't you give me some money and I'll kill that guy? Or why don't you give me an influence card and I'll try to kill that guy? Now, it should be noted that to kill a guy, you just roll a die, which seems kind of silly. But you can just roll a die, and a 3 through 6 would result in you successfully whacking that gangster. And if you do successfully kill somebody, the person in control of that gangster loses 4 respect, and you gain 4 respect for actually killing off that person. And if you, say, killed this bean counter, they would go to the swimming with the fishes space over there. If you are successful, then you have that interchange, but you have that time where the person that controls the bean counter can actually spend $10 and say, no, I want you to re-roll. And so you have to re-roll again. And so if this time, let's just say I rolled a 2, and so I failed. Now I'm like, oh, well, okay, you know what? I'm going to spend $10 and I'm going to re-roll that die. And so you re-roll again, and it's another 2. But somebody really wants that bean counter die. So somebody else other than you and the person controlling this character says, I'm going to spend $10 and I want you to roll again. Okay, I'll roll again. Oh, finally, we kill him. Does anybody else want to spend $10? Anybody else want to spend $10? Nobody else spends it. Then, of course, the guy gets killed and you move him off to the side. And so that's one of the more hilarious moments in the game, actually, due to the fact that you'll be begging certain people to spend the money so you can re-roll, or begging them not to, so to speak. And once again, the negotiation. I'll give you an influence card. Just don't spend the $10. Or I'll give you $5 not to spend 10, and so on and so forth. That added dynamic that makes this game awesome. Now, besides trying to take the action for the space, or taking the action that's on the card, you have the option of trying to make a move, which is you're basically trying to muscle in on somebody else's turf and take over their particular location. So if you were, once again, in control, let's say Vic Vasilino down here, and they got to, you're controlling Vic, and he's got the +1/+1, but you have your eye on this +2/+2 for this enforcer over there. Well, you can say, well, I'm going to say Vic is going to make a move on Carlo Hosey up here. Hosey. And so this also comes down to a die roll. And what happens is that you need to roll higher, not equal, but you have to roll higher than the amount that is located on the position of that particular location. So in this case, it is the enforcer is a level 4, meaning that it's not really all that high due to the fact that it's got to roll only higher than a 4, and you take the respect of the person that's trying to roll, which would be in this case Vic Vasilino, has actually a respect of 4. So this is actually not going to have to do anything other than the fact that if you do roll a 1, you fail, and a 6 would always succeed. So you roll the die, and oh, look at that! I rolled a 1. But let's just say I didn't, and so they take the spot. And what happens is you switch out and you turn the card sideways, meaning that that particular person has acted and now they no longer can act. This is to prevent you from getting 2 actions in a row, because normally after the first guy goes, then the enforcer goes, and then the racketeer. But this is to prevent, Vic from having another action after the fact. Once again, if you are successful, you gain 4 respect, and you take 4 respect away from the person that controlled that gangster. If you fail to make a move, you would lose 4 respect, and this person doesn't gain any, they just get to keep their spot. And of course, as I described, the roll of 1 that I normally got, if that had actually happened instead of allowing me to cheat and show you something different, Vic would have actually been killed, in the attempt to muscle in on Carlo's turf, and I would have, the person controlling this, if it was me, this guy would have gone to the swim with the fishes, and I would have lost 4 respect as well. So you go all the way up the ladder to get done, and then you move on to the fence, which is now you get to draw more influence cards, and the number of influence cards you get is dependent on how many gangsters you control. If you control no gangsters, you get 4 more influence cards. If you control lots of gangsters, at the most you're going to get 2. You can spend money to draw more, so you can still, if you want more influence cards and you have the cash to spend, you can do so. That's one of those nice catch-up mechanisms, so if you end up not controlling anything and everybody else is picking on you, at the very least you're going to get a bunch of cards for free, and so hopefully you're going to be able to make a move as in the further turns that are happening. The next space you go to the feds. This is when you start arresting gangsters. Depending on the number of players, gangsters will go to prison. It's either 9, 10, or 11, depending on the number of players. If there's 3 players, it's 9 influence. If it's 4 players, it's 10. If it's 5 players, it's 11. Once that number of influence is on a particular gangster, the cops take notice of them, and they'll arrest them, and like I said, they'll move to prison. And unfortunately, that's where they'll stay. At least they're not dead, though. They're not swimming with the fishes up here. After you've determined whether or not they're arrested, you're going to go to the family, and at this point now you're going to fill jobs. Now, it's very important to note that once again, the people that are in charge of the different locations are the ones that are going to get to determine who gets a certain job, or who moves up and who stays where they are. The first position you have to fill if it's empty is the capo. So if the capo was dead, he isn't in this situation, but if the capo was dead, you would have to take the next available gangster, which in this case would be the underboss, move up there. If the underboss is in prison or was dead, you would have to move the counselor into that position. But in this situation, the only 2 people we have to replace are the bean counter and the first guy. So when it comes time to determine who takes over, you have to see who is the next available person that has a direct arrow that is a named mobster. So in the case of the bean counter, the racketeer will move forward because they have an arrow that is beneath, but there's no other arrow connecting. However, now when we move on to this particular location, you have an enforcer that can move into that particular situation. You have a third guy that can move forward, and a second guy that can move forward. They're all hooked up to this particular location. So now, once again, the negotiation begins, and the person that's controlling the gangster that makes the decision gets to listen to any and all offers from those people, or if they happen to control one of those, they're obviously going to move that person if it's advantageous. If you have a situation where none of the people that are ranked below are alive anymore, that's when you will start moving into the associates. That you'll get to take these and you'll get to move them into different positions. And once, as always in the mob movies, they become part of the family, and they make their name, so to speak. Then now they're a full-fledged member of the mob family. Any and all positions that are open after that particular situation is done with, including the associates over here, you replenish with gangsters off of the deck. After you've replenished each of the locations, you move down to the calendar. You add a cube to the one, so you know which turn it is. It's turn 1, and you'll go back up to the top where you're starting to play the influence cards, and the murder and the mayhem and the wheeling and dealing begins again. It's an involved game, but I think that the mechanics are very straightforward, and after you've played a turn or maybe 2, the game clicks for you, and you really start to feel the flow of the game, and you're not really worried about how to play so much as how you're going to win, which is what I really like about this game. I like the fact that it had a really interesting but simple rule set. But I'll go into that further when I tell you exactly what I think about the game. All right, let's do that. All right, I just want to make sure that you know this is a prototype copy. This is not definitely going to be what the game is going to look like as far as the components go and as far as the box goes. I can't guarantee what the game is going to look like. I'm sure it'll look very much like what I have, but you know there might be some discrepancies. So just that's the, of course, the what's the word I'm looking for here? That's my disclaimer, if you will. Yeah, without the word, actually, which is rare for me. I definitely, well, the front may look the same. I definitely do not believe it'll be a Talisman Highland expansion box that your game will come in. I'm just a theory. I don't know. All right, so you know I like the game. So why do I like the game? Well, like as I said, I love games of negotiation. I love the whole process of exerting my charisma and will on somebody. I love the idea of like convincing somebody that you're not going to screw them over, even though you totally plan on screwing them over. I love the fact that I have to trust other people to follow through on their deals that they've made with me. And I also like the fact that there really isn't a way to have a mutual win. I know Tom says one of his favorite games to play is Cosmic Encounter. Whenever I play Cosmic Encounter, it always seems like if you play with mutual victories, it always seems like there's two people that all of a sudden just say, let's just both of us try to make sure we win at the same time. And so that always seems to happen. Like, you know, that you have a mutual victory of like two people or three people winning at the same time. This is a game where only one person can win. So the bottom line is, yes, you might make a truce with somebody, but you need to make sure you're doing better than they are and also be willing to kick the stool out from underneath them at any given time just so you can make sure that you win the game. Now, as far as, you know, I knew that I was going to like the game because I started playing it and I felt like I was playing Tammany Hall, which then, of course, made me feel like I was playing Dominant Species. I love the fact that I constantly have to be on my toes all the time to make sure that I am constantly revamping my strategy to make sure that, you know, because you might have a really good gangster with your influence on, but, you know, it's only a matter of time before somebody realizes that and either kills him off or sends him to jail. In which case, then you're screwed because, you know, all of a sudden you have all these pennies in the bank that gets taken away from you, so you need to revamp your strategy and move on. This isn't a game where you can stand pat and win the game. I mean, obviously, if you're playing with people that allow you to do that, then yeah, okay, you probably can. But for the vast majority of the game, as long as you're playing with people that are paying attention to what's going on and that are, you know, noticing that you're getting into a position of power, you know, you're going to have a situation where you're walking that nice fine tightrope where you want to be doing good, but you don't want to be doing so good that everybody else decides just to smash you down into oblivion so you can't win the game. I remember the first time when I played at Gen Con, I managed to jump to a very, very early lead at the beginning of the game. I had 15 points or so more than everybody else, and so everybody just, you know, slowly turned their targets and, you know, and all of a sudden the gangsters I had influence on and all this power scheme that I had made for myself just got destroyed, and I ended up finishing, I think I might have crawled back into second place, but I know I did lose the game. And so at that moment, even though I lost the game had told me a story. It was a nice narrative. You know, we were laughing, we were joking, we were having an awesome time. And I feel really bad that Adam West, a game designer, was one of the people that made the game. And super nice guy. And I feel bad because maybe this game wasn't for somebody that was as super nice as Adam, because Adam just couldn't bring it in himself to you know, jam somebody and screw them over. It was just one of those things where he was just trying to do, you know, he had like a little resource engine going, you know, where he was trying to just do as best as he could without ruffling any feathers. And And that's what this game isn't going to work for. If you're somebody that's going to be able to play a game who just wants to put the mittens on and just fairly vaguely touch people and maybe push them a little bit, it's not the game. This is a game where you got to come out swinging, you got to lie, you got to be treacherous, you have to be willing to allow yourself to be a jerk, if you will. And but you have to also really say, hey man, it's nothing personal. It's just business, right? You know, so, sorry for that. That was a horrible voice. I mean, if you are somebody that likes area majority, different card powers, you know, and like I said, you like that ability to talk, the gift of gab, or even the ability just to kind of stay silent and just kind of sit in the second or third space, reserve your powers, reserve your resources, and then make a big smash grab towards the end of the game. That's also a game for you as well. I mean, it works on a lot of levels, and I just find the whole process to be extremely enjoyable. It's one of those games where the mechanics of the game are very easy to figure out and learn right away. And so, as I've said many times, I really enjoy games where the mechanics are simple but deep. So, in other words, the game itself is really easy to learn on a really basic level. But to take that knowledge of how the game works and apply it to the different and deepening levels of the game, the peeling of the onion, so to speak, that's when the game, like, just it clicks, you know. And I've talked about the click before. You know, it's that moment where you're not even looking at the rules anymore because you know exactly how the game works. You're starting to think 2 or 3 turns ahead. You're starting to plan on what you have to do to win, and you're not so much worried about making sure you don't make a rules error. You're more worried about, you know, what am I going to do that's going to enable me to win the game. And that's when a game gets to be fun for me. And Nothing Personal was able to do that in the very first game I ever played. And I played it several times afterwards because I got this copy, and it's just proved to become getting that's horrible language. It's gotten better with each play since that. So there you go. Nothing Personal. Be a backer if you think it's something you'll enjoy. If you have any questions or comments, by all means leave them below, and I'll answer those to the best of my ability. Thank you, as always, for the time it took you to watch this video. And until next time, this is Undead Viking. You have yourself an awesome day.